Yes, he is. Abundantly. You can ask for a thing. Well, it's that time. It is E320 o'clock. Here's what we need you to do. We need you to go ahead and come on in the room. You are in the E320 Empowerment Room. You know how we do it. We need you to go ahead and drop in the chat as soon as you come in the room. I'm in the room. Let us know who you are. Let us know where you're viewing from. And then we have one last instruction for you. We need to tag, like, and share Lottie, Dottie, and everybody. And let them know they've got to come into the room on today. That's it. Go ahead and put highlight, followers in the chat. Reach out to that person that you know may need to hear a word from the Lord on today, or the person that's always in the room with you every week. Remember, you don't want to be selfish and you don't want to be in the room by yourself. Go and get somebody and let them know they've got to come in the room. There she is, my daughter, Apostle Wanetta Ash, all the way from Jackson, Alabama, in the room. My cousin, Joyce Marie Adams, all the way from Big D, Texas, in the room on today. Who said I'm going to be with y'all on this Sunday at my son, Pastor RG3's launching service at Impact DFW. I hope I can see y'all. Listen, thank God, my cousin, Lashandra, thank you for being in the room again. Dallas, Texas is in the house. Go ahead and spread the word. Let everybody know it is E320 o'clock and it's time to come in the room. Thank you so very much for like tagging and sharing. Thank you so very much. I appreciate you for making this broadcast, this particular setting, this stage that is set, this table that is spread fluid for every person to be on, and especially for those that you know need a word from the Lord on today. Of course, you have tuned into the E320 Empowerment Hour, where we tap into the power and the promise of E320. Dr. Pamela Phoenix, daughter, good to see you in the room. Thank you for being with us on today. And of course, Ephesians 3:20 states, it's a familiar passage of scripture. Now unto him that is able to do exceeding abundantly above all we can ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us. I see you, Evangelist Prophetess Morris. Thank you for being in the room on today. Of course, I am your host, believing God to do the most, Bishop R.G. Mason II, and I'm believing God to do exceeding and abundantly through you, for you, and with you on today. Here in this sacred space, we come together to, number one, enkindle your faith. Number two, expand your vision and empower you to believe and experience the miraculous grace of Ephesians 3:20. Of course, as we always do, we like to get started by quoting and reciting aloud and in concert our confession of faith. Now, I want you to make yourself ready, because no matter where you are, I want you to say this verbally out of your mouth, because you are speaking prophetic words of change, prophetic words of increase over your life, over your family's lives, over your ministries and your businesses alike. Now, it simply reads, I walk in the power of Ephesians 3:20. I am empowered to prosper. I'm healed in my body and sound in my mind. I am emotionally intelligent. I'm fully prepared and anointed for the moment I'm walking in. I think y'all got it already. Why don't you drop in the chat? This is my moment. I'm telling you, I feel the grace of God. This is my moment. Some of you have been looking for a shift. Some of you have been feeling a pivot about to take place, where I hear the Spirit of grace saying, this is the moment where you have to pay attention. This is the moment where you have to listen with extreme caution to what the Spirit of grace is saying. This is the moment where you have to be super sensitive to what God is saying your next move is going to be. Now, I carry the spiritual insight of Issachar. In other words, I know the times, I know what I'm supposed to do, and the strategies of Solomon. I know how to practically walk out the time that I am in and be successfully sustained within my wall. I live under an open heaven, which means my blessings will not be sporadic and spontaneous only. They're going to be spontaneous and sustained at the same time. Heaven and no good thing shall be withheld from me. I believe it, I receive it, and I walk in it, and it is so. Drop in the chat if you believe this is your moment and great things are happening for you right now, and it is so. Would you do me a favor, those of you that are watching virtually now that are in the chat, I would that you go ahead and tag somebody and just let them know great things are happening for you now. And then I need you to remind yourselves great things are happening for me right now. Evangelist Kimberly Clark, great things are happening right now. Apostle Perry Ford, great things are happening right now. Dr. A, great things are happening right now. I just keep hearing that song play in my spirit. Great things, hallelujah. Not small things, not minuscule things, not mediocre things, but great things are happening right now. Family, again, we are back, and we promised you the last time we came together that we were going to be picking up where we left off on last week. And while we're yet sharing, continue to reach out, tag, like, and share. Invite everybody you can, Lottie and Dottie, in the room, because again, this is a great moment and great things are happening right now. And you don't want to be selfish and experience this greatness all by yourself. On last week, we began to talk about sacred spaces and selective faces. Yep, we're talking about boundaries. We're talking about the necessity of creating boundaries and making sure that you have the proper people within the proper places within this season of your life. Just because you were apropos for the last season in this particular space, you may not be apropos for this season and in the same space. I may need to re-examine where you're supposed to be as it relates to proximity of me in the season that I am currently in. And it's going to be so important because who you walk with is going to be as important as who you war with, who you work with in this particular season. And sometimes we mistake those who are going in the same direction with those who are actually walking with us. And Amos said it best in 3:3. How can two walk together? How can they create a consistent pattern of productivity? How can they agree on a particular destination and direction to get there, except they be of the same mindset and come into alignment and establish a certain degree of agreement? And so that's what we're talking about this week. And of course, we are letting you know that there is a sacredness to the season that you're in, and who you let in this sacred space and time is going to be important because you can't afford to violate the God-given access that he's extended you the privilege to be able to release to other people. And so the conversation today is not about being guarded. It's about making sure that you're being guided by the Holy Ghost with wisdom, discernment, and creating boundaries at the same time, because some people feel entitled to just be a part of your life and to come into sacred spaces within your life because you're that kind of person who's open and warm and congenial and inviting and gregarious. And so sometimes they mistake your kindness for weakness, as if you don't understand who they really are and the assignment that they are on, or sometimes the selfish narcissistic behavior that they display that ultimately creates a cancer within your camp and keeps you from having the peace of God that's necessary for you to begin to move productively towards the next season of destiny. And so the Spirit of grace wants me to remind you that, number one, this season is going to require alignment. Say alignment. Put that in the chat. That's important. Alignment. You're going to have to find out how you stack up, where you're supposed to be stationed, what the standard is for your life, what the code is you're supposed to live by in this season, and you're going to have to be aligned. But then there is awareness. You're going to have to be acutely aware of who you are, where you are, what you're supposed to be doing, why you're supposed to be doing it, and who's supposed to be doing it with you. Again, who you are, where you are, what you're supposed to be doing, how you're supposed to be doing it, and who's supposed to be doing it with you. And I get it, beloved. Nobody knows you better than you. Well, can I take a parenthetical pause and tell you, you're not the old you used to be, though. You may need to have some quiet time with you to get to know you so you can redefine the you that you are now and stop defining yourself by the you that you used to be. And it's going to be impossible for others to respect where and what God has done through your life, where he's taken you, and who he has carved you out to be if you don't recognize it first. And so God wants us to have alignment. He wants us to have awareness. But here is what you have to understand. The final element is important. You've got to discover and become comfortable with your authority. And you have to stop letting people label you as arrogant because you walk in your authority. You're going to be so unbothered in this season by what people say, what they do, until you're going to get more done in a short period of time than you've been able to do over a sustained period of time where you were looking for co-signers to co-sign on what you were creating. But here's the truth of the matter. Sometimes we expect people to authorize what they don't have the discernment to recognize. And so you're going to have to be sensitive and know your authority, but watch this, corral with, gang up with, partner with people who recognize your authority the same way you do, but who's not intimidated by who you are. They appreciate your authority because your authority stirs something from within them. Now, here is what you have to get, though, because in order for us to productively come to that place, we're going to have to start confronting some things about us. Would you put this in the chat? You'll never conquer what you don't confront. Again, you will never conquer what you don't confront. And sometimes, because it's hard for us to hear the hard things about us, we never come to the place where we confront some things about us, which means there are some things we never conquer about us. You may have to conquer by confronting the fact that you have some relational attachments and you struggle with boundary dynamics. I'll say it again. You may have to admit that you have some unhealthy relational attachments and that you struggle with boundary dynamics. Let's talk about one in psychology called anxious attachment. It's when your attachments are based upon anxiety. It's where a pattern has creeped in where people feel abandonment and they seek constant reassurance in relationships. I'm talking to the lady who just had your heart broken, shattered into pieces, disappointed, but before you can fully get over him, you met somebody else because you feel like your security has to be within your relationships. And so sometimes we find that even those who are still in relationships have unhealthy, anxious attachments. Well, Bishop, what are you saying? You know, when you text your partner 4 and 5 times in a row and they don't respond quickly enough, you start panicking, thinking something is wrong. I thought you said you were going to the store. It doesn't take that long to come from the store. I thought you said you were just going to get some bread. It doesn't take that long to get some bread because somewhere someone interrupted, corroded, and caused your security to become so cancerous until your insecurity has now given birth to anxious attachments. But then number 2, emotional labor fatigue. It's when burnout comes in from constantly managing your own emotions. Watch this, Dr. A, while I'm trying to manage yours at the same time. It means I know I'm inept and I'm not adequately equipped to handle your suicidal tendencies because I'm secretly struggling with suicidal ideations myself. And so because I feel prone to always be the super person to come in and rescue you, now I'm dying on the inside while I'm trying to save you on the outside. And this happens particularly pastors and leaders and ministry workers and marketplace leaders with us because we smile, we encourage, we support everyone, but privately we feel drained and unseen because no one checks on us. And we act like what Smokey Robinson talked about, the tears of the clown. We are smiling on the outside, but we're crying on the inside. But then number 3, there is what is called in psychology, honor and identity formation. This is the way people value your worth or surmise your worth and value you and affirm you and respect you. Whether they treat you with dignity or not, it forms your identity. Their honor or their dishonor of you helps to shape how you see you. Now, I know it sounds twisted, but it's a reality because, beloved, sometimes someone's rejection of you can easily become your reflection of you. Because I know you thought you had it going on, but the problem was when that person didn't think you had it going on, now you think there's something wrong with you. And now your identity has been shapen in a dwarfed manner and it's deformed. A child who is constantly told they're not good enough. A woman, a spouse, a girlfriend who's constantly told you're not pretty enough. You're too fat. You're not skinny enough. You're too dumb. You're not articulate enough. Ultimately becomes such a people pleaser until they do stuff to garner and earn favor and ultimately starts moving beyond healthy boundaries because they see no limits to where they're willing to go in order to gain approval. And so these attachments will form because you're no longer secure enough to be trusting. You don't have balance in your life. You're clingy and you're fearful. You're distant and you're guarded. You're conflicted and you're unstable. But it gives birth, and I want you to put this on the screen, administration, to what is called in psychology enmeshment. That is E-N-M-E-S-H-M-E-N-T, enmeshment. Now, enmeshment is interesting because it's when boundaries become so blurred until one person is overly involved in another person's feelings, decisions, and identity. When I get to the point where I literally adopt your life as mine because I don't like mine, so what I do is dub yours. And I become such a busybody involved in what you do until I've created a virtual reality for you and I that is truly fictional to the degree where it's literally non-existent. But this can happen even in regular platonic relationships and even mother-child relationships. A mother who feels personally betrayed when her adult child makes independent life choices. You know, because he was mama's baby and daddy's maybe. And that was your baby boy until your baby boy grew up and wanted a woman of his own. And now you tried and you struggled with it for a while, this enmeshment, because now you always telling his wife how to cook his food, how to iron his clothes, how he really likes what he likes. Well, here's the reality. You don't understand boundaries because you may have known what the boy liked, but you can't give him what the man likes. And so what happens now is these unhealthy boundaries are set in. And Solomon says in Proverbs 4:23, the way we overcome this is by guarding the heart. Look at what it says. Keep the heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. Because he understands that relational capacity is connected to the heart. That level of emotional and spiritual and psychological bandwidth that you have to deal with different types of people. If my heart is corrupt, I won't be able to handle some of the hardships I'm subjected to by some of the hard cases that God brings in my life through people. But then attachment injuries, where I developed psychological wounds from people I trusted and I loved and I leaned on for support. But in the moment where I needed them the most, they left me unhealed, they left me injurious, and they left me feeling as if I've been violated within my boundaries. And so the reality is, family, we have got to understand what it is God is calling us to do in this season about boundaries and about separation. I did not come alone today. I came fully equipped and prepared. But most of all, I came with a gang who understands how to establish boundaries, who understands the walk and the struggle associated with the lack of boundaries, lines of demarcation, and ultimately blurred lines altogether. They have joined me because they know the journey all too well. They've lived it. They have wrestled with it. They have built boundaries. They've crossed boundaries. They have gained wisdom from mistakes, from matriculation, and sometimes even from simply having to go through the school of hard knocks. And I'm so godly proud to call each of them my spiritual son or daughter. I'm grateful that Apostle Perry Ford is with us on today. He's going to walk us through the relational weight of leadership and loyalty. I am grateful that Dr. A. Adrian Woods is with us on today. She's going to give us the therapeutic lens on healing and emotional accountability. But then last but not least, I'm so grateful that my daughter, Evangelist Kimberly Clark, is with us. She's going to keep us anchored in self-worth, spiritual insight, and help us to have healthy detachments and boundaries at the same time. Now, here is what I need you guys to do for me right now. I want you to drop in the chat very hurriedly these particular words, and they're going to become prophetic because I'm believing when you write them down or when you type them up, the Spirit of grace is going to cause illumination to come, and you're going to see where these words apply. Put in the chat, Lord, help me with my boundaries. Put that in the chat. Lord, help me with my boundaries. Because this is a vital issue in this particular day and time. I'm going to give you an opportunity to go ahead and put them in there. Lord, help me with my boundaries. Help me not to feel manipulated, guilty, or even embarrassed and ashamed because I set limits for myself. Father, help me to understand that if I don't set limits, people will have no limits. Help me to know that I'm not called to do everything. And I'm not called to help everybody. Help me to understand no, it's not a cuss word. No can be my comfort word. Help me to invite people in where I can help them, but to keep them away from what's unhealthy for me and will ultimately render me helpless and inept to be able to help them. Apostle Ford, there are so many leaders who are wrestling between the tension of leadership and loyalty and spiritual alignment, especially as it relates to the relationships they have. Here's my question. How do leaders wrestle between the tension of loyalty and spiritual alignment when relationships begin to cost more than they cover? Again, what do you do when alignment and loyalty has you handcuffed to people as a leader? But man, this relationship has become so costly until the covering is not even worth it. Help us, Apostle.
Because thank you, sir. I'm so glad to be on here today. I don't know about anybody else, but I feel the spirit. When you said, Lord, help me with my boundaries, I felt that myself. And I had to understand this, that I had to face rather that I was more committed to people in my history than I was to my destiny. Because what happens is people are with you for a while.
No, hold on. There you go. You can't drop gems like that and think you're going to just roll over the speed bump. Did you just say there are times when I'm prone to have more loyalty to those who are part of my history than those who are part of my destiny? Are you suggesting those who were part of where I've come from, but are not apropos for where I am, and certainly not for where I'm going? Can you piggyback off this for me before you give us the rest of your spiel, Apostle? I found that one of the ways we can identify those people is because the conversation is so mediocre and so mundane until most times the only thing we talk about is remember when. We have a good time laughing. We feel good, but even that level of laughing starts to make my cheeks hurt. And when it's over, we have nothing else to talk about, but because I'm loyal and because we've been aligned, we then exchange numbers again and make a promise. We're going to stay in touch every day or every week or every other week. And now we're establishing relationships that are outdated, that were based upon history and not destiny. Can you help us with that, Apostle? How can I stop doing that?
Well, first of all, you got to remember you grew up. They're still holding the baby. And every time they hold the baby, they want to look at you as the baby. But you're not the baby anymore. You can't pick me up. I don't need a bottle. I don't need a playpen. I moved on, but you get stuck. And that word, I remember when, is so, it gets to a point where in your spirit, it becomes draining. I'm not there anymore. And please don't tell me you know me. You knew me then, but you don't know me now, because you're still stuck back there. And I used to keep people closer that walk with me, that wasn't with me. And when you was talking about the car, it got me this illustration of how to explain that. If you're in the car with me and we're driving, you're with me, you're going the same place I'm going, you're in the same mood that I am, going to the same place. But if you're going, that means you're in there with me. But if you're in a car next to me, you're going where I'm going, but you're not going with me. You're not inside. You're not privy to the conversations. You're just driving alongside on the road. So when we get to where we're going, and even if you make it where we're going, you have no idea what the road was like, because you wasn't privy to the conversation that was had in the car to those that was with me. So leadership is lonely, and I'm learning this hard even though I'm a little older, but I'm like 21 years in ministry, but I'm learning that leadership can be lonely, because people will drop you like a hot rock in a minute. But it's even lonelier when you surround your people who expired your space. Your time is expired. You know, we look on the food and it says expiration date. I always talk to my wife. I said, this say August. We in September. She said, that's just the date that they say they had to sell by. I said, well, when I look at it, and look at the date that I try to stop eating it, not the date that it's sold. And that's what people are doing. They're looking at the date that it was supposed to be sold by. You expired. I'm sorry. Your day with me is up. And sacred alignment forces me to define loyalty as an agreement with my assignment, not just an agreement with my past. We may have been rolled and ride or die in the past. We might have been like 4 flats on a Cadillac, but the Cadillac got fixed and you on the road. I'm gone. I'm sorry. We can't go there. I love you. And see, a lot of people think, and they talk to me, get mad at me all the time at the place where I preach about. They think I don't tell you, well, you need to cut your friends. No, you need to cut off excess weight. In the butcher shop, they trim the fat. They leave a little in so they can get the succulence of it, but they trim the excess. Oh, help me, Lord. Trim the excess fat. Let's start trimming. I got a knife. I'll let you use it. Start trimming. That's my story because my sister ain't here and I'm sticking to it.
Good stuff, son. Good stuff, man. Listen, these boundaries are so important, but although they are greatly important, sometimes it's so difficult to properly implement them. My question to you, Dr. A, because I do understand, and I love what Apostle Ford intimated as he talked about the trimming of the fat. Jesus himself talked about this in John 15. He said that his father was the husbandman and he was the vine, and every branch that's in him, as I paraphrase, that's not being productive, it's cut off and then it's cast in the fire. But the one that's being productive, he purges it and he makes it bring forth more fruit, which simply states that a stick was once a branch. A stick was a branch that forgot its purpose and died. And so sometimes if we can understand our purpose, we can produce, stay alive, keep from dying, and don't have to go in the fire. But here is this loyalty thing coming up again, Dr. A, because there are so many people who are operating in guilt trips, who are trying to reestablish or hold on to outdated relationships, not create boundaries because they are guilted into doing so. Why do so many people struggle with guilt when they start creating boundaries, especially after years of emotional neglect? What is it about us? Help us.
Bishop, what we have to understand is guilt is actually a symptom. It's a symptom of years and years of people pleasing. And while you are healing, the guilt forms because you're uncomfortable with the old version of you and the new version of you. So we try to avoid conflict. And so if you avoid conflict to keep peace, you start a war within yourself because you already know that you're going to have to deal with this issue of setting boundaries. But you feel so guilty about setting them because you have lived this life of letting things be permitted in your life. And you don't know when to start trying to set that boundary because you are warring within yourself, the old version of you, the new version of you. What you permit, you don't realize that now you have promoted that in your life. And so you have been over functioning all these years. And because we're over functioning with these relationships, forcing relationships, having the pick me syndrome, and you're forming these attachments. You have gates open everywhere, and so now when you're trying to protect that area of your life, and you're trying to form the boundaries in your life, you are warring now with that old version of yourself and the new version, and you have this thing that's called guilt. And we don't realize that it is forming there because you're healing. If we could just get to a place where we just heal and be uncomfortable in our healing, but we want to be fixed so quick, and we want to be we don't want to be broken just for a minute, just to heal and form the right relationships. Because you don't realize when you're trying to go through these things in your life and you're trying to set these boundaries, You're dealing with a lot of other spirits that have come into your life, of course, like rejection, which we're going to talk about later on. Because that's what you've been doing. You've been forcing relationships. You have you didn't do things like say, okay, I'm not able to take that on right now. That will just wipe out a people pleaser, because you have been walking in the spirit of rejection all these years. You finally got people that like you because you want to be picked. You're not even in love. You just want to be picked. And we don't even realize the mistakes that we are making by not setting boundaries. What you permit, you promote. What you allow, you encourage. What you condone, you now own. And if you do not, it's yours.
Give us that one more time. One more time.
What you have permitted, you have promoted in your life. What you have allowed, you have encouraged in your life. What you condone, now you own. Now you own. If you did not set those boundaries in the relationship in the beginning, and now you're having to, listen, we'll fix that, because we're going to go ahead and deal with those difficult conversations. But from going forward with the new you, like Bishop was talking about, what Bishop said, that new you that has said it, stand on it. Stand on it. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Good stuff. So is it that there are times when my reluctance to create the boundaries will ultimately be the very thing that causes the failure of the relationship that could have been productive, but because I did not set the boundaries because of fear, anxious attachment, and other things, it later on became so massive and insurmountable that I could no longer tolerate it. And what I did was I threw an emotional grenade in the situation, blew it up when I could have salvaged it had I just simply established boundaries in the first place. So is it that sometimes my inability or refusal to establish boundaries initially will cause the detriment of my relationship eventually? Can we say that?
Yes, because instead of feeling like a bad person by saying no and by putting you in your proper place, you have to recognize that you are honoring. There we go. You're honoring yourself, your self-care, yourself, because you are. If you let too many people in, you cannot have these authentic relationships, like we said last week. It's just surface level relationships, and you can't build those true relationships because you have this huge circle of friendships, this huge circle of things that you have not set boundaries for, and no, your self-care is gone. You can't. And let me be transparent, Bishop, if I can quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Even in my life, I realized that I allowed the spirit of rejection to come in because I was such a people pleaser before I got in ministry, that I didn't realize that that when I got to be a preacher and was ministering, and family wasn't showing up, and we have all, I come from a family of preachers, and they're all at the boys preaching, but no one's come to the girl preaching. And I now have this spirit of rejection.
Wow.
Now I want to change service time so they can make it. Maybe they'll come if I change my times. And I was not listening to God. I was listening to my people-pleasing self. And the Lord had to speak to me and tell me, they're not your assignment. Get back on the assignment. He said, they're not your assignment. He said, I will grace them to be in your presence if you have assignment to them. He said, but you have an assignment. Do what I tell you to do. Take care of yourself, set these boundaries, and stand on it.
Wow. I love it. Good stuff. So guys, hear what she just said. You're not called to everybody, and you're not called to just anybody, but you're called to somebody. And you have to seek out who that somebody is. Seek out that demographic. Seek out that particular problem that you're called to solve. And it may not, and most times it will not include your family, Because again, when Jesus was provoked concerning his family, he turned and said, who is my mother, father, and brother and sister? He said, those that do the will of my Father, as I paraphrase. So sometimes there has to be division there. That's some good stuff right there. I love all of it. Evangelist Kimberly Clark, listen to this. We live in a time where people are constantly talking about needing a break, taking a sabbatical. I tell folk all the time, you didn't even know what sabbatical meant till you got in church. Everybody taking sabbaticals now. Okay. So the reality is, I church too much. And we live in this secularized society that teaches us to be narcissistic and very selfish and look out for me and my four and no more. And so therefore, I feel like I need to take these breaks, these long extended furloughs and hiatuses. And I have literally abandoned the very word that is the foundation for which our salvific experience comes from. And that word is sacrifice. Had he not sacrificed his life, we would not be on this particular platform right now. Everything about our relationship with him is sacrifice. But because church and the religious status quo teaches us that we are operating in self-abandonment, if we practice sacrifice, it creates that same tension Dr. A was talking about, cognitive dissonance, where we're holding two opposing realities and we feel pressured in the center. How do we honor God while honoring ourselves, while feeling the pressure of the religious right, by causing us to be guilted into being or feeling like we are operating in self-abandonment as opposed to doing that which we are called to do? Can you help us with that?
Yes, sir. Sacrifice in the kingdom is about laying down sin, laying down pride, laying down ego, and laying down idols. It's not about laying down your identity or silencing your own voice. I can honor God and still honor myself, because the woman that he created is not my enemy. I'm his daughter. And if I'm dishonoring him, then I'm dishonored. If I'm dishonoring myself, then I'm dishonoring him. And so I had to unlearn that honoring God didn't mean me, Kimberly, had to disappear. Because for years, I thought sacrifice meant losing myself, ignoring my own needs, silencing my own voice, and calling all that stuff holiness. That's what I believed it really was. But God never asked me to abandon myself. He asked me to abandon the things that pulled me away from him, not the woman that he created. And so sometimes the church culture will glorify burnout. Like we're told to show up, to pour out, to be available, but then without healthy boundaries.
Did you say the church culture will teach me to glorify burnout? I need you to piggyback and run with this one, because it also intimates that the glorification of burnout comes through the excessiveness of gaslighting at the same time. Can you talk about that?
It does. It does. We're only told to show up and to pour out and to just be available. That's what we're conditioned to believe. But we're not taught about having boundaries. And so we'll show up for all the things, but we're always going home empty. Our family don't get none of us. Our kids don't get none of us, because we're giving it all to the church, but we're not actually giving it to God. We're giving it to the church, but not to God. My whole adult life, I wasn't really in the church. I was in and out of addiction. And so when I did go, I never stayed long enough to get caught up in the church rules or the conditioning that I've heard people talk about. And so in a lot of ways, I don't have that lens that people have when they say that, the church conditions you to do all these things. All I know is truth. I stand for truth, and I won't compromise on it, not for tradition, not even for my own comfort. And that's probably why I noticed so quickly when we as a people confuse sacrifice with self-abandonment, because I know what it's like to lose yourself. I did it for years in addiction, and I refused to come to church or to come to Christ and lose myself all over again in the name of religion. That's not God. That's definitely not kingdom. And honoring God, it doesn't mean I erase Kimberly. It means that I show up as who he created me to be, without shame and without pretense. The word says to love your neighbor as yourself. And that means as yourself. Because if I hate me, then I betray me and I'm dishonoring me. And I'm showing other people how to do that too. I'm showing other people how to treat me if I'm dishonoring myself. I can't model honor for others if I'm not doing it for myself. God never asked for that. Jesus rested. Jesus withdrew. Jesus, he sat with friends. He even protected his own boundaries when crowds wanted more than what he was called to do. So for me, honoring God looks like stewarding what he gave me, my mind, my heart, my emotions, and honoring myself, like remembering that like my yes carries weight. The oil I got, it cost me. I remember the cost literally every day. I won't just give it out. I can't afford to. Every yes has to be prayed over. But sometimes the most honoring word that you can say is no. But I won't compromise. And it cost me to even get the boldness to even say that I won't compromise.
Listen, you went in. That's all I can say. You went all the way in. Let me say this parenthetically real quick. Apostle Ford, Pastor Terrence just keeps dropping so many nuggets in the chat until, with your permission, I'm gonna put him on the hot spot and tell him he's a guest next week since he want to be so chatty. Okay. So listen though, listen. Here is what I need you to understand. As it relates to church and leadership and what is described as witchcraft in the pews, a phrase that was coined by Bishop George Bloomer. Many times we are operating under the guise of manipulation, domination, and control, and it gives birth to guilt because religion has enslaved us to work again to please our leadership and to please our quote unquote Lord, when we're supposed to be in a love relationship that's based upon faith. And so if your leader makes you choose church over your family, that's witchcraft. I'll say it if I got to log off and say it. If your leader makes you feel like you can't leave the church because you're going to die and you can't go to another church, that's witchcraft. If your leader is so selfish, narcissistic, and hedonistic that they only expect you to support their program, but they can't never support you, that's witchcraft. I say all the time, I don't need a nurse nursing me. And I know we use the term nurse, but some say concierge, some say attendant. And let me just say it this way. I don't need you pouring my juice if you can't fix your husband a plate. I don't need you washing my towels, but you hadn't washed your clothes at home. I don't need you making sure I'm good. It's too late, Terrence. You can't hush now. I don't need you making sure I'm good if your family is not good. And again, you've got to make sure you understand that balance, or excuse me, for the sake of our subject, those boundaries. Anytime you are rushing here, now I want to say this, rushing here to be on time for church, but yet your family is starving. There's some boundary issues there. Yeah, you're right, Bishop, because you shouldn't go to church and your family hungry. Well, no. See, we're talking about symptoms. Let's talk about the sickness. The sickness is you've been wasting time and you've not been making full proof of the time you have, and you have a false balance in your life. Because the truth be told, neither the church or your family needs to suffer. But what we do is we abuse our time so until one has to suffer in order for the other one to survive. And of course, a healthy leader who wants healthy homes and a healthy ministry is always going to tell you to take care of your house. But should we always have to say that? At what point will you grow up? At what point will you bring balance in your life and stop using the church as an excuse for you not wanting to grow up? So it's a two-way street. And in reality, most of us have these little sacred spaces we've created where we're emotionally vulnerable. We're always to the point where we are becoming anxious and overloaded because of stuff we won't deal with or we won't allow the Lord to deal with. And now we have trust issues. We don't feel safe anymore. We don't have anybody we can be transparent with. We're not talking to people. We have a lack of authentic relationships in our lives. And it ain't because everybody around you is bad. And let's be real. If you belong to 7 churches in 10 years, at some point you got to start looking at the common denominator. Every church ain't bad. And let me help you with this one. If you're looking to join the perfect church, go ahead and die and wait for all us to get to heaven. Because until then, you will not find it. Church is the perfect place for imperfect people. And I'm a churchman till I die. And I'm not giving up on the church either. Because it's the church where I learned to meet Christ firsthand. It was the church where I've received the strategies and the wisdom to know how to be a marketplace apostle at the same time while I am a leader giving birth to other leaders, developing strategies, helping change lives. It was the church that taught me that. I didn't get that in the streets. Now, my leadership initially came from the streets. Y'all know I'm a dope boy, but I brought that over here and refined it, where I could understand the principles by which to live by in order to garner the kind of success that the Bible talks about. And so again, I'm going to take up for her, the church, and quit lying. She ain't hurt none of y'all. No such thing as a church hurt. People in church hurt you. And when you learn to get over that, you will learn to appreciate the institution that's filled with the individuals that's helping to save your life every time you come. And if you belong to a church that ain't helping to save your life, it ain't the church's fault, it's yours. Okay, I don't know why I went there. But listen, here's the truth of the matter. Good stuff, daughter, good stuff. Good stuff. You provoked me for a moment. But here is the truth, man. There are those, Apostle Ford, who again feel guilty. And they create distance in relationships because they know they're no longer healthy. But the problem is sometimes the guilt overrides the distance. And they end up shortening the distance because the guilt has become too overwhelming. Why do we often allow guilt and the distance creating relationships to make us go back and reform and reestablish that which is unhealthy? And for those who are doing it, how can they overcome it?
That's good, because one of the things we have to do is realize that, going back to what I said before, we got to stop carrying people or enabling people or becoming someone who's supporting a bad habit of people to continue to bring us down. We have to stop feeling guilty about dropping people off at the side of the road. We got to stop feeling guilty about, okay, I'm going to Seattle, but your drop-off point is not Seattle. Your drop-off point is before we get to Seattle. So I got to learn how to be okay with dropping you off, even though I don't want to in my natural, because as a pastor, and all of us know that, we carry people in our hearts. They don't carry us in their hearts, but we carry them in our hearts. And when they get to be a weight, we feel irresponsible that we should be taking them when God is saying we should have dropped them. I remember very clear one time God told me, I cried, God, oh, why you let that happen to me? He said, I ain't never told you to do that. Why are you crying to me? I never told you to do that. You're not listening. You're worrying about carrying people. And it's like the fat. You got something, I'm going to have to go back to, you got to cut some things off. I have a condition where with my back that if I put anything in my pockets, it throws my body off alignment. Oh, that's a good word. So I don't put nothing in my pocket, because as soon as I put it in my pocket, I can feel it in my legs. And some of us are carrying people in our pockets and wondering why our back hurt, wondering why we can't sleep at night.
Hold on. Did you just say carrying stuff you're not anointed to carry throws you out of alignment?
Yes, sir.
So is the antithesis that if I'm anointed to carry it, regardless of how it exceeds my body weight and normal capacity and strength, if God gave it to me to carry, no matter how much I complain about the weight of it, I have the capacity to bear it?
Yes, sir.
Can you help us with that?
Well, I have inserts that I'm supposed to put in my shoes because I have a foot. But if I don't wear them, I feel the problem of not wearing them. But when I put them in there, I'm anointed. Oh, help me, Jesus. I can allow myself to walk better because I'm called for the inserts.
Okay. See, you act like you don't even want Dr. A to answer her question. Okay, so listen. inserts. Can we use this analogy for this platform? I believe that I'm well equipped to be able to have these type of conversations, and I could get in the camera and have them specifically with those who log on in isolation. But because I want to walk upright, erect, and in alignment, I have to have these inserts called Apostle Ford and Dr. A and Evangelist Kimberly Clark. What if we stop being so selfish and narcissistic and thinking about ourselves only, and understanding that, yeah, you can survive by yourself, but you can only thrive with somebody else, and put in the inserts? Would we begin to walk better then? You don't want Dr. A to talk. Go ahead.
We would, sir, because what we have to understand is we confuse distance with division. We think because we're distant from somebody, that means we're divided. I tell people all the time, I love you. You need to tell people I love you, but you can't go with me. It's not about you being bad. It's not about you being messed up. You just don't have the capacity to help me to do what I need to do moving forward. You have the capacity to do what you're doing there. I can't take you somewhere that you're going to keep me from being what I need to be, because I have to understand that I have to get it clear in my mind that I have to stop explaining my growth to people who don't know what A is from B. I got to stop complaining. I got to stop telling myself, oh, well, you was with me for 10 years and I need to explain the vision. No, if you can't catch it, you can't run. A wide receiver that don't catch the ball don't get to play in the game. I'm done. I'm sorry, Dr. A. You can come on in now.
Good stuff, son. Good stuff. Dr. A, I told you he didn't want you to talk today. Lord have mercy. Dr. A, because no matter how much we talk about boundaries, if we would be very transparent, we're always breaching them. And I know within our recap and our post Zoom, when we came together on last week, we talked about how sometimes these boundaries are in place to safeguard us, but there are some people that are worth breaking boundaries for a limited time, but you come back and rebuild the breach. How does one come back and establish healthy boundaries after experiencing repeated boundary breaches?
Yes, Bishop, this is what I think people should do. You're going to have to do first an emotional audit on yourself. You got to start to ask yourself in certain relationships, when you have experienced repeated breaches and betrayal, where did I lose my no? Where did I mute my no? Where did I put myself on the back burner?
Hold on. Did you say I have to ask myself where I lost my no? So I turned my N-O into O-N?
Oh, yes.
Talk about that.
Bishop, let me, when we have to realize that boundaries keep, if you keep betraying the boundaries that you've set for yourself, and you have been repeatedly having this done to you, betrayal from you laying down your boundary, resentment is going to set up in you. And especially if it's the same person, that relationship is going to suffer, because this is a buildup. You didn't follow your own discernment, your intuition. You keep you keep muting your boundary, your no, for this situation and for those certain type of people. And you see the cycles. You see what's happening. You see, if you take an audit of yourself, a self-assessment, you will see that it's really truly the same type of person that you do this for. It's not only just the ones who guilt you, but it's the ones who are loving you real good. And you have to realize that sometimes you have allowed something in that you were supposed to block. And when you keep allowing it and you keep laying down your no and laying down your boundary, resentment's going to come. And we don't realize that relationships are strengthened when both parties are comfortable with stating their fears and what they want. But when you are in these situations, a lot of times when you are guilted and when you have been betrayed so much and you really want these relationships, you won't even express what you really want out of a relationship. You won't express your fears. You won't even express what you've been through because you just want it to work. Because now you're in a place where you've laid down not only your boundaries, but you've laid down your standards because you want things to work. You're guilted, you've been betrayed, you just want a friendship. And so when you're trying to rebuild after you've seen this cycle over and over again, and now you're trying to rebuild the relationships, you're going to have to do emotional audits on yourself. Because when you come back to it, just like you said before, Bishop, there's a common denominator. And it's most of the time it's you. It's what you have allowed. And so that's what we have to do. We have to do a lot of self-assessments, seeing where we have muted our nose, where we have let down our boundaries, and where we allowed things in our lives that we know we didn't want in our lives, but we allowed it just so we can stay connected. That's my story, Bishop.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So family, when loving them is killing you, you have to choose you. When loving them is making you lose you and losing yourself in them, you have to choose you. And that doesn't always mean break up, but it does mean back up so you can discover yourself again. And I say this all the time. If you're married, your first posture is back up. But if you're not married, stop being afraid of breakup, because ever and forever is a long time. And so you don't have to be guilted. Well, he bought me a ring. Okay, get back. Well, we made a video. Well, you can make another. But the reality is this. You don't want to say yes to the wrong person and have to reap that wrong decision in perpetuity. Again, I said again, if you're married, your posture is back up. But if you're not married, you can easily break up. And that's my story. Now, Evangelist Clark, there are those who are emotionally accessible, but they have learned to equate emotional accessibility with emotional exploitation, because that's what happens many times, which is why most people say, I want to be numb. I don't want to really show my feelings. They internalize so much and they find themselves imploding and eventually exploding. What does it look like to be spiritually mature, but emotionally accessible without being emotionally exploited?
So spiritual maturity for me has meant learning the balance between me carrying oil and protecting the vessel that's carrying the oil. And so I had to learn the difference between being approachable and being accessible. Approachable means that I can smile, I can love, I can listen, but accessible means that I let anybody pour into me, pull from me, or call me when they want to, pick my brain when they feel like it, and things like that, even when they haven't proven that they know how to handle me. And that's where exploitation creeps in at. Spiritual maturity is known when somebody is really coming for you, like for covenant, versus when they just trying to be in the mix, or they just trying to be attached to you, or just to be seen attached to you. And the blind spot for me, I didn't see for a long time, is that I thought that my yes was serving God, that anytime I said yes, that was serving God. But really, I was just saying yes to people who only liked me when I was useful to them. And maturity taught me that I don't need to apologize for a no. My no is just as holy as my yes. But when the Spirit leads it, we always have to remember to be Spirit-led. It's about knowing who's assigned to you. And not only that, how much access does that assignment require? And so it's about being mature means it means I know I carry all, but the all isn't for everybody. And some people will show up. Some people will show up because they just want to be seen with you. And it's so weird how people do that too. It is so weird. But yeah, that's all I have.
Did you say that's all you had after everything you just said? Lord have mercy. Listen, family, of course, we are coming to a close, and y'all know we could do this all day. especially with these anointed co-hosts that I have. They blow my mind every single time. But family, we want to leave you with something to weigh heavy upon you until the next time we come together. And that is the necessity of boundaries. Boundaries are spiritual. Y'all put this on the screen for me if you would, please. Even drop it in the chat. Boundaries are spiritual, emotional, mental, and relational limits that define where you end and where someone else begins. I said again, they're spiritual, emotional, mental, and relational limits that defines where you end and where someone else begins. So here is the thing I'm trying to convey. My boundaries doesn't mean you have to stop. It means I have to stop. And I'm prayerful that someone else will pick up where I left off. But this is as far as I can go. See, we had an understanding when you got in the car, when you asked me what direction I was going in, I told you I was going in the direction of the school, but I never said I was going to the school. So if I continue down this road, I'm going to have to alter my destination. So what I'm going to do is not argue with you while I grab my 9 and get you out of my car. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to let you out right here so we both can be safe. But I'm not going to let you alter my destination. I'm going to say it one more time. Well, it's on the screen. That's what boundaries are. Here is the problem, though. We keep having what I'd like to call a boundary breach. Put that on the screen, boundary breaches. Boundary breaches occur when someone crosses a line that you've clearly drawn. I told you I wasn't going there, but now you're trying to force me to go there. You can have a boundary breach in your marriage in the bedroom. I don't do that. Well, I like that. Well, that makes me feel unsafe. I don't need a safe word. If you love me, let me stay safe. Oh, y'all won't like this one. And sometimes we confuse adoration with access. That's what Evangelist Clark was talking about. I can love you without giving you access to me. Because honor is extended because I've been commanded to honor you. Honor is extended, but access is earned. You have to earn the right to be in proximity of me. See, I'm not so hungry and thirsty for relationship or for those to be quote unquote subservient to me that I let anybody around me. You're going to like this, pastors and preachers and leaders. Go study 1 Samuel 17. The Bible describes a giant and in modern vernacular, almost 14 feet tall. You know his name is Goliath. But what we don't focus upon is the Bible says there was a man that went before him bearing his armor. It takes a giant to serve a giant. And when you stop looking at yourself as a grasshopper, you'll stop putting grasshoppers around you. But when you understand how mammoth in the spirit you are in size, you will stop placing mediocre people around you. But it occurs when the line has been drawn and they cross it. It operates in 3 fashions. Please put this on the screen. It's what they do to cross the line. It's what you permit that caused them to cross the line. And then it's how long you allow it. Again, a boundary breach happens because of what they did to you. But then what you allowed to happen because you thought you had to take it. But then how long you allowed them to do it. Bishop, how will I be able to identify a boundary breach, though? Let me give you a few of them because I think it's necessary. You feel drained after certain interactions. You know your boundaries have been violated then. When I can't interact with you and feel good after we leave, but I feel icky like I need a bath, my boundaries have been violated. when I feel obligated to say yes, like Dr. A talked about, even when I hear the Holy Ghost screaming, no, no, my boundaries have been violated. When I feel guilty because I hadn't been to sleep in 24 hours, but you have made your urgency my emergency, and I'm on the phone nodding, talking to you about something that you clearly won't listen to anyway, giving you advice and scriptures that you didn't want to hear, because in the midst of the conversation, you said stuff like, now, Bishop, I'm calling, but listen, I don't want you to be all spiritual. Click. You'll catch that later. Because I hung up and called back. But then when I feel a sense of resentment toward the people around me, now I'm sick of everybody. That's because my boundaries have been breached. And now I don't know how to operate within clear lines of demarcation. But here's the last one. I think you'll enjoy this one, Apostle Ford. When I'm confused about where you're supposed to be in my life, my boundaries have been totally breached. You may want to write this down. Proverbs 29 and 21 says something so very vital. It says, he, and I'm paraphrasing, he that traineth his servant up to be a son will become a rebel in the end. In other words, everybody has a specific place. And when you don't make people stay within their place and in their space, they ultimately violate placement and they frustrate your purpose. And so it's going to be vital that we create these boundaries and we don't allow people to breach them in this season. And so my boundaries may not be yours, but I have to have them. And so I do that by defining access levels. And it's okay not to give everybody the same level of access, because everybody doesn't earn it. I said this again on last week. You don't love your children equally. Quit lying to yourself. You love them adequately. And you know why? Because each of them don't do what's necessary to have the same level of love that you show for those who respect you and honor you. But you love them adequately. And that's how you have to assess relationships in your life. You have intimate relationships. These are the soul-safe relationships. Can I tell you how I know you honor me? Oh, glory to God. Lord, I'm talking to sons and daughters for a moment. Then I'm going to talk to lay people. Then I'm just going to talk to people in general. I know you honor me because whatever date means something to me, it means something to you. If I tell you to meet me every second Saturday, it becomes so sacred you let nothing get in it. And you know that's honor. You know how you know you honor your spouse? Because they don't have to tell you over and over again what they don't like. Because you honor them too much to breach that. You know how you know you honor each other platonically as friends? Because you get to know what each other wants, likes, and appreciates, and you try to stay within those boundaries and never violate that because the relationship means too much. But these intimate relationships are truth tested because it has withstood the test of time. It's emotionally reciprocal. If I'm always having to listen to you give me an emotional dump, but the moment I start telling you my story, you tell me to hold on, or you interrupt me and talk, or you always got to find something else to do, make me feel like you're disinterested, I know I'm not in a reciprocal relationship with you. It's not intimate. But then there are trusted relationships that are assigned and aligned, but not always permanent. And forever doesn't always mean together. Ask Paul and Barnabas. But then you have acquainted. I know I'm moving fast, guys. I said intimate, then I said trusted, but lastly, I said acquainted. I'm just trying to hurry up and get off of here. These are those that are known and seen, but not granted full entry. When you are my acquaintance, we can hug, love, and share, but proximity is not there because I can't trust you with my vulnerability. Jesus had 12, but only 3 could see him transparent in the garden. and they went to sleep. But then the second thing you do after you define the excess levels in your life, you establish honor agreements. I'm big on this thing, honor, man, because honor speaks of weight and significance. It means what I really mean to you, as opposed to what you say I mean to you. How much weight do I have in your life? Do I have enough weight to tell you something that doesn't make sense, and I don't have to make it make sense for you to do it because you honor me and I carry that much weight in your life? Oh, no, nobody carry that much weight but God. You lying. Because if you don't honor a person like that, you don't even honor God. So here it is, family. Make expectations explicit with those close to you. Let them know, this is what I like. This is what I don't like. This is what I would tolerate. This is a deal breaker. This is what I need. This is what I don't need. Have time, have communication, have space, and create mutual respect. But then, number 3, practice relational reviews. You know what that means? As Dr. A said, put an audit on that thing. Tell you what, yeah, we ride or die right now, but we're going to look at this thing in about 6 months. And we're going to start comparing what you have done as opposed to what you have said. I've got some people who can tell me something and I'll take it to the bank. I have others who tell me stuff and I just smile and hug them and I play like I'm just as dumb as I need to be because I understand who they are and they can't be anybody but that. And I've learned to be okay with that because I do not alter my life around their word. And so when I do these little audits, Dr. A, here's what I want to ask. Who has too much access in this season and why? Oh, I know you had a key last season, but you barely even come in here now. Why? What you doing with a key? Oh, I'm talking plain. I just told administration we going down the list of key holders. And we're trying to see who really still needs access as opposed to people who want to show up, who can't get in because the people with access don't want to use it. I said something. But then the second thing you want to do is determine who needs more access and who's shown me who they are, even though they never told me who they are. And I'm so scared of y'all that make comments like, I ain't gonna never leave you. I start preparing for you to leave me then. Lying. Number 4, pay attention to relational patterns and not words. Watch what they do. And stop begging people to stay with you. Because anybody you have to beg to stay, you're going to have to ask them not to leave. Because they will keep pulling the same thing on you redundantly. And access should never be based upon familiarity alone, but consistency. Because you've been tried and proven and you've been accountable. But can I tell you most of all, Dr. Apostle Ford, what I determine access by is kataroshaba. By whether or not you disrupt my peace. I tell the folk who serve me all the time, from my administrators all the way down to the armor bearers, I got to be able to trust you with my life. And if I can't leave my wallet, my credit cards, my social security, I know you go too far, but here's the reality. You don't need to serve me because I can't trust you. Because I'm putting the most valuable thing I have with me in your hands already, which is my ministry. And if I can't trust you with God's business, I certainly can't trust you with mine. I'm trying to help somebody. But if you're disturbing my peace, you got to go. Because I go through too much hell out there. I'm not going to let you make church be miserable for me. And I'm going to have fun. I'm going to joke on you and everything. I'm going to laugh and grin while rebuking you. And when it's over, we're going to hug. You're going to get mad. I'm not going to be mad. I'm going to keep laughing. And the next time we're going to start over. Last but not least, and I'm done. Don't confuse access with assignment. Just because you're called to someone doesn't mean you're called to them in perpetuity and that they're called to stay close to you in proximity. Because sometimes my calling is not to perform in your life. It's to pray for your life. And I have to be sensitive enough to know when to make those particular distinctions and those particular detachments. Now, guys, listen, we're always overloaded with message, but as you know, we are always seemingly under the gun when it comes to minutes. Evangelist Kimberly Clark, Dr. A, Apostle Ford, you guys have been such a magnanimous blessing today. I want to give those an opportunity who have questions to go ahead and post those questions. And I would that you answer them as the Spirit leads you to choose those particular questions to answer. And if there are no answers, I'm going to ask you to give your one-word closing as we get ready to leave the air. Now, put on the screen administration for those that want to sow. Again, you're sowing into the E320 Empowerment Hour that we may continue to further this particular platform. We're giving birth to other platforms as well. We've already done so. Again, there is one that takes place every Monday night at 6:30 that my wife hosts, and she hosts alongside of Apostle Alexander, called That's My Story. Those who are dealing with real-time issues of grief and other elements as life continues to life, you want to tune in, same platform, 6:30 on Mondays. It's called That's My Story. We have a brand new one. Matter of fact, we have so many that's getting ready to birth, but I'm excited. Those who are in the military, those who've been to war, who are still at war in your mind, dealing with PTSD, other traumas, relational trauma, spiritual, emotional, there is a platform that's being birthed just for you that's going to be kicked off on the 1st of the year 2026, and it's called Vetted. And of course, it's going to be hosted by our very own Apostle Perry Ford. Again, guys, we have so many platforms that are being birthed right from this platform. And so we want you to understand that your seeds are making the difference as we begin to do that. Any questions, comments, or concerns that I'm overlooking, administration, please place them on the screen. And again, I'm going to ask our co-hosts if they would join in and they would begin to address those. And if not, no questions, I see it. Thank you. I'm going to ask each of them to come and give the one word, and then I'm going to pray over every life that is represented on this live today. Evangelist Clark, if you had one word to leave the people with that will sustain them until we meet again, what would that word be?
My word is worth.
Worth? Oh, Lord have mercy. Oh, see, there you go. I'm trying, because worth gives birth to value, and then honor, okay, and then access. Okay, all right. You always doing it because you didn't want Dr. A to talk. Okay, Dr. A, what's your one word you're leaving them with?
My one word is release.
Release. Lord. Okay, so
you may have hurt my feelings, but you didn't alter my future.
Whoo.
No mistake. You've now been put into your correct place according to my purpose.
Good God Almighty. So my releasing one may qualify me to receive another. Sometime I got to say goodbye in order to say hello. Okay, I got you. Oh, okay, Apostle Ford, you have two words. The first one is Terrence, because he think I'm playing. But then I want you to give me the second word. Go ahead.
Alignment. Because without that, you're going in the wrong place. Like with your back, if your back is not aligned, it affects everything else about you. So I got to be properly aligned to my assignment, or else I will not go where I need to go.
So, Apostle, not putting these boundaries in place shifts my alignment and alters negatively everything else about me. Can we say that?
Yes, sir, exactly. Because if I'm not properly aligned, then my assignment and everything that God wants me to do is now crooked and not straight, because I've allowed other people to push me in a place that I shouldn't go. So I got to push here, push there. Now I got this out of place. I got this pressing on blood that's causing me to not flow. Oh, let me stop. That's good enough. I don't want to teach.
Okay, Evangelist Clark, what was that word again?
Worth.
Worth. Dr. A, what was that word again?
Leave.
So if I release after understanding my worth, I come into alignment. Notice these were spontaneous responses. They didn't rehearse these, but the Bible says we know in part, we prophesy in part. The Bible calls it a word of knowledge, where word is a fragmentary part of a sentence. Did you see that? God is prophesying to those who are associated with this live in real time and those who will watch it post time that it's time for you to start understanding your worth in order to do some releases to bring you back into alignment, because your lack of self-worth and your lack of understanding of your value has literally caused you to hold on to too many people and put them in spaces they're no longer qualified to be in. And as a result, you're out of alignment. Apostle Ford said it best. Just a simple item in his pocket can shift his entire dynamic and cause his equilibrium to be off. And ultimately, he can move, but he can have no true progressive ambulatory advancement. And so if that is the case physically, spiritually, here is what I'm speaking by the Spirit of grace. I'm speaking that everything that's attached itself to you that is illegal and unauthorized has to be exposed now, and you're receiving the eyes to perceive it, and you're going to have the grace and the strength to release it so that you can begin to walk in alignment. I decree now your worth is increasing, your value is being seen, and those around you are going to see the new you, and they're going to respect the boundaries that you have set for you. Your business is increasing. Your ministry is expanding. Your creativity is stirring. Yes, I'm speaking to the creatives. I'm speaking to the writers. I'm speaking to the bloggers. I'm speaking to the vloggers. I'm speaking to those who are called to do podcasts. I'm speaking to those who are called to do something innovative and cutting edge that's never been done before. But the reason you've not been doing it because you have not understood your worth, and you have not released, and you have not come into alignment. But I prophesy to the northern, to the southern, to the eastern, and the western winds, and things shall blow in your favor, and everything that has exceeded its limit and its time in your life shall be blown out, and you are walking in proper alignment. You will understand the sacred space, and you will understand the necessary faces that are to occupy those spaces. It cannot be otherwise, and it is so in Jesus the Christ's name. Amen. Listen, family, we got to get out of here. Before we go, drop in the chat, it is so. That's all I need you to do, is agree with me. It is so. That's all. As you say it is so, I believe those prophetic words are going to cause something to birth in your life, and you're getting ready to see the fruit and the manifestation in real time. Now, as we get off of here, I want you to know that I'm going to see you again. Well, Bishop, why do you say that with so much assurance? Well, either I'll see you on the air, happy birthday, granddaughter Tammy, or I'm going to see you in the air. But here's the reality: I will see you again. And until the next time, keep walking in the empowerment of Ephesians 3:20. I love you. Thank you so very much, my anointed co-host. I'll see you next time. Grace and peace.